for a walk through the yard here. I have a live coming up here shortly, but we have time to go say hi to all the animals. So come on. By the way, you're probably wondering what this is. Well, we'll show you what this is in a bit. It's special. Okay. Who's out there? That's Lady. Lady likes to play ball. She's one of our yard dogs. And you can't get past Lady unless you play ball with her. Oops. This is Lila. She's one of our other yard dogs. And you can't get past her unless you pet her. Or pet her tummy. Yeah. Okay, well we gotta go. We're gonna go see. Okay, ready, Lady? Okay. Yeah, that should keep her occupied. Okay, let's go say hi to the goats. Hi there, Dandelion. This is Dandelion. We'll take you for a walk after the show. And there's Doe. Okay? Well, we better get going here. We won't be late. Okay, there's all our garage sale stuff. Can't move. So we're just garage sailing now. Oh, there's our roosters. And our other little bantam chickens. And here's these guys, all the other chickens. Yeah, all the 8 source. Oh, look at that, we got the show. The show's going on. I love that. You can watch these guys for hours. Oh, we better get going. It's time for the show. I'll throw the chickens some more food. Okay, that's how we're going. Good. Okay, this is a shop. Yeah, everything's kind of all in a dismay, but soon we will be talking. And here's my old solar shop. So now, turn a few lights on. And here it is. We come in, and there's kind of a closet behind the door here. And over here I got my computer set up. We come back here to this corner, and you can kind of see the door. Now you see that big white thing? There's the window, so I do cover the window. I'll cover it right now. It makes a big difference when you dark out the place. But so you can see now it's dark. That light's on up there, which I shut off, and I shut the doors. So, but the I'm just going to set this up here. Now we got apartments. I'm not plugging this big light. Here's the big light. Oh, look at that. My wife left my jacket here and a little note. Turn mic on. Okay. I'll try to remember that too. I'll put it right here. Turn mic on. For my live. Okay, well, we better get ready here. So, I don't know if you can see me here. Okay, so.
Well, I did turn my mic on, so I'm looking right at it, and it says on. Welcome to the Saturday Sex Show. And I see that we have a few people online this morning, or this afternoon. And but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a tour of the farm we're leaving. So even it's funny, I was watching it here, and I just made this video the other day, and I moved my studio outside of the house. Now I'm out in the solar shop, as you've seen. But the lighting, it's really tricky. I was in the house, so I was really in a small space, and everything was against my face, so my face was always blurring out. But now you see I'm not blurring out. I can take my head off. I don't have this buzzing. I don't even have the reflection in my glasses. And what I learned, you know, I think us guys have to admit this more. What I learned is I should have followed my wife's advice in the beginning, because she told me way at the beginning, you need to do 2 sets of lights. She said, you got to light up your back wall. And that's behind me here. It's a green screen. as you've seen when we walked in. And then you have to light up the subject, and the subject has to be, 50% more light than the back wall. And so what I was doing is just blasting all of this light at the subject and trying to light the back wall through the subject, and then you'd get fuzziness around the jackets and stuff like that. So where I can throw my jacket on here, I didn't put it on. And, now I'm in the green screen area here. So up here there's a bit of a hot spot, but it's a work in progress. So what we ended up doing was putting. We had an old sheet, and we put sheets over little domes of light, and we blanked everything out with sheets and stuff like that. So I'll take another video of the studio, and it's changed a little bit. I realize I do not need that big white light that you've seen in front of me. It was too powerful. And I could turn it on, like right now. If I turn it on, it'll throw out more light. There. Now it's a little brighter in here. I'm still not washed out. It just seems like I probably turned a light on or something. So now I have the big light up front on, and all the lights are on in here. It's quite bright. So tell me what you think. We're working on it. It's a lot of fun for me. It's something to do. And anyways, the truth. Everyone is in the truth. That's what we were taught when we were Jehovah's Witnesses. I was 18 when I was first introduced to the truth, as the Jehovah's Witnesses call their religion. As I used to call my religion. For 30 years, I called my religion the truth. I was in the truth. And so someone would ask me, if you were to ask me, when I was a Jehovah's Witness, sorry here, I just finished working on my green screen here just 10 minutes ago. And so today's show is kind of a little bit of a mismatch. Thanks to Watchtower Help Club, though. Thank you, whoever's behind the scenes there. We don't know, but we are, Watchtower Help Club they're online. We talked about them on a couple of our shows, and I went through a lot of their stuff. And what intrigues me about Watchtower Help Club is here is, I believe, an individual who has been in Bethel and working alongside the New York Bethel, and then left, and then to put together this site. Because this individual realized that the truth is not in the religion, and we're going to look at Watchtower Help Club and review that. Is the truth that simple? And what if the truth? What's the other article here? I got to look at it here. What if the truth were true? So that's the other one. So I don't know, I didn't have a chance to pre-read these that well, but we can do it together here. But when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I was taught that the truth was the religion. Now I did a video on this a long time ago when I started, because that was the biggest thing for me, is the truth, this word, the truth, and how they played with the word, the truth. And in our brains, we seek truth. We all seek truth. We don't seek lies, unless we're something wrong, I guess. But the average person seeks truth. They want to be told the truth, and they want to believe what they're told. And even from infancy, we are wired to believe in something. To believe in what? And do we want to believe that it's true? Well, of course we want to believe it's true, I think. So one of the biggest beliefs that Jehovah's Witnesses use against the rest of the world, because they're separate from the world, is Santa. You know, when you're young, I was young, and I grew up as a non-Jehovah's Witness, and I celebrated Christmas. And for many years, I believed in Santa when I was a little kid. I believed Santa, I don't know, I didn't question it. I believed Santa did this, brought the gifts. And every year there was gifts. And some years it would be exactly what I wanted. And then other years I was disappointed because my brother got what I wanted. But, you know, every year Santa came. And then one year I started not to believe in Santa. You know, I think I heard some rumors at school, some kids talking that Santa wasn't real. And then the neighbor kid, who was older than me, and we lived on a farming area, and the neighbor kid comes over, and he was older, and they were, I don't know. But anyways, the neighbor kid says, what if Santa were real? You know, and he started comparing it to Jesus and to God, and, you know, I guess he knew more about spirituality. Well, you know, really Jesus and God is like Santa. You know, we've never seen them, and if we believe in Jesus and God and spirituality, we're kind of believing in Santa, in a sense, because we've never seen God, and I've never seen Jesus. I've read about Jesus, but there's a lot of discrepancies about who Jesus is. So I don't know. You know, it's kind of like Santa. You know. So we're going to look at the truth. Now, the Watchtower comes along when I was 18. And it wasn't the theology at the door. It wasn't anything about Santa being not real and them being real or anything like that. It was a girl that I was attracted to. That's what got me in the door. And so I started studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses. And you know, they'd use this thing about, well, how people lie to their kids about Santa. And, you know, we can't be lying. We got to tell the truth. And so their thing was, and what they taught me was John 8 and 32. John 8 and 32. Do you remember? Anybody online remember what that says? Who's online there? Let's look. So far, we have K-Fred. Hello, K-Fred. Hello. And SDR. Hello, SDR. Mimi. Hello, Mimi. And by the way, Mimi, K-Fred, SDR, a lot of you guys that are regular on this channel, thank you for helping. My good wife was saying someone wanted help the other day. And to any that are out there watching these channels, these XJW channels, they're good places to communicate, to chat with people. People are here to help. It's a helpline. And my wife was talking to me this morning about this. And she says, really, she says, you know, all you guys are like shepherds, really. You're helping people out there, and they depend on you. It's a place that they can come to talk, and it's safe. And she pauses, and we drink our coffee, and we're sitting there, and then she says, it's kind of like sheep without a shepherd. They got kicked out of the Watchtower, and now all these sheep, they don't have a shepherd no more. And she says, isn't that what Jesus was about? And I thought about that for a minute, and I hadn't thought like that from that angle. But, you know, keeping in mind, my wife is not a Jehovah's Witness or ex-Jehovah's Witness. She has no knowledge of, except through me, through our marriage, of what it's like, and through you guys. You guys have helped her. But in her faith, or her way of believing when she was young, it's more humility. It's not like, there's nothing like we have the truth, nothing like that. And she got baptized as a young Catholic. You know, she was in grade 9 years older in grade 9. She'll have to tell you. By the way, my good wife runs the channel, the chat channel, because there's no way I'm that quick. So she's on there, and she can tell you when she got baptized as a Catholic. But anyway, she got baptized as a Catholic, and throughout, and I've been asking quite a bit because I want to know, you know, the differences. And she said it was all about humility, all about penance, all about humbling ourselves, and where when you're learning Jehovah's Witnesses, it's about I have the truth. We are the truth. There's none of that in the Catholic religion, she says. She says it's about Jesus. It's about learning about Jesus and all his qualities and traits, about the love. She says it's quite simple. It's not a complicated religion, really. So I'm curious because I want to know the differences. And the more I learn about other religions, I believe the more I'm empowered as a person, the more I can learn about other faiths and other forms of spirituality, because it helps, other than learning it through the Watchtower. The Watchtower gave us a very tainted view. Now, you remember the Watchtower taught, and I don't know if they still teach this, but they did in the old Truth book, and that was called The Blue Bomb back in the 80s, 70s. It hit the Guinness World Book of Records, sold 109 million copies or something. I got one of those copies, and you had to pay for them back then. I think they were about $5 a book, so you could imagine. Now, this little blue book said the truth will set you free, and I could pull it up. Well, let's see if I can find it here. I'll find it online here. The Truth Book, JW. There it is. Images. A lot of them online. You can buy these things on, they're selling them for $9. $13. $18. These books are selling for, I'll show you here. Here's one here. The Thrift Book. This is a used book. So if you have Jehovah's Witness books, they're worth money. I wonder why. All old books. So these are selling, $6.59 to $6.89. They're hardcover books. But anyways, this was the this was the book that I learned the truth, the so-called truth in, was this book. And the truth that leads to eternal life. And they used a scripture, John 8:32. I'll pull it up here. John 8:32. Truth. John 8:32. There you go. So it says there, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So that's what John 8:32 says. Now, in Jehovah's Witness world, we were taught that that means you will know the theology or the Bible through the Jehovah's Witnesses. They will teach you the truth about the Bible. That's what that is. That's what they taught me, and that's what that book teaches, that blue book. You will know the truth. The truth is the religion, the Watchtower, the governing body, all of those things together is the truth. And that truth, this governing body, the religion, the theology, their Bible, the way of doing it, that is what will set you free from all of the religions out there, from all of the false religions, from Christendom, from Muslim, from all of the religions on the earth. The Jehovah's Witnesses have the truth, and the truth will set you free from all the false indoctrination from false religion, right? So, I didn't want to do that, but that's what the theology teaches in the Jehovah's Witness world. You will know the truth will set you free. So now, I was talking to my good wife. By the way, she brought me out a Pepsi. And we're just going to take a moment here for Pepsi. Now, Pepsi is really good to drink, and we thank you for all of your donations, Pepsi. Please send us lots of money so we can keep this channel open. And thank you for the Pepsi. Pepsi. Nothing like it. Now, the reason my good wife gave me a Pepsi is because you remember the last couple of shows, my throat frogs up. Now, apparently the bubbling and the fizzing in Pepsi, or Coke even, but Coke's bad. Pepsi will pay us. Coke's bad. Pepsi. I'm just kidding. Anyways, back to the story. Now, the truth will set you free. I'm going to go back to the display and cameras. Now, my good wife says to me, have you ever looked at this scripture, John 14:6, and Jesus says to him, I am the way, and Jesus is talking about him, right? I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. That's what Jesus taught. So my good wife says, well, if Jesus is the way and the truth, so Jesus is the truth, well, would that not mean that his shed blood would set us free? You see, would that not explain John 8:32? You'll know the truth will set you free. You see, you'll know Jesus, and Jesus will set you free. Well, Jesus shed blood will set us free. Isn't that what the Bible teaches? It's so simple. Is the truth that simple? When we look at the Bible, anyways. So that's the first part of it, of the truth. And it gets one thinking. Now we're going to go through the Watchtower Help Club, if the truth were true. And we're going to see what they say. Now, the truth with a capital T is what the Watchtower, the formulator of all Jehovah's Witnesses' beliefs, rather presumptuously calls its doctrines. What would it mean if the truth were really true? Here are the first 10 things that popped into my mind. Humankind would have been in existence no more than about 6,000 years instead of 200,000 years for which we have evidence. For our modern human existence and the 7 to 8 millions of years of our hominid ancestors. In addition, all of the fossil evidence would be false, either put there by Satan or as part of a worldwide conspiracy of scientists determined to undermine our faith. Good point. Number 2, the universe would have been created by an angry, vain war god, the god of armies, of the ancient barbaric Middle Eastern tribe. And this god would have done things in the wrong order, creating all of the plants at least 7,000 years before the sun, or at least before allowing the sun's rays to reach the surface of the earth. Plants, along with everything else on this earth, depend upon the sun for life. But I guess this god had never heard of photosynthesis. The writer obviously has a sharp sense of humor, you notice in all the writings. I think it's great. Now, it goes on in number 3, says the creator of the universe would be inept. We already mentioned this regarding the plants, but the doctrines of the truth depict this God's ineptness as virtually boundless. For instance, although he knew every detail of all sufferings that would be caused by his turning rulership of the earth over to Satan, he did so anyways, with the excuse he didn't want to interfere with human free will. But he then went on to violate human free will whenever he had the whim to do so. 3 quick examples. Forcing people to speak and understand new languages, but no longer their original language in order to interfere with their coming together on building projects. Hardening Pharaoh's heart, that of his men, in order for Jehovah to show off by committing mass murder on a spectacular scale. Or giving Saul a new heart and changing his heart to be like that of someone else, so that he was changed into a different person. But perhaps as God's most glaring display of ineptness is showing in the primary Watchtower doctrine of the ransom sacrifice. According to this doctrine, the God Jehovah first told humankind that sacrificing animals would cause him to forgive sin. But after hundreds of thousands of animals were sacrificed, he admitted that this really had no effect on him whatsoever, and that it was all for show, foreshadowing how he intended from the start to have his own son murdered in order to eventually depose Satan and forgive humankind for a sin they hadn't committed. In spite of the fact that this God had often forgiven serious sins about requiring a sacrifice to be made. and having declared that sons would not be punished for the sins of their fathers. That's what the Bible does say, that, all of those things. And he also had his son give up his free will in an instance, as the Bible makes it plain, when it records his prayers in the Garden of Gethsemane. Not my will, but yours be done. Interesting. Number 4, all of the governments and religions of the world would have Satan as their head, despite the fact that God's word declares God as their head. And every single politician and clergyman would be a wicked servant of the devil. So this is if the truth were true, okay? So number 5, it would be an act of love to shun your children, should they ever disgrace with the Watchtower. And that's a big one now, the shunning. It's all over the news. The shunning. I hate to say apostate, but all of us apostates, creators, all of us Watchtower creators are covering the shunning. And the Watchtower, as we covered off on last week's video, they deleted 2 videos about shunning that were going to come up on their assembly program this year. They deleted them. So that's interesting. Now, the number 6, this is if the truth were the truth, if the Watchtower was the truth, number 6. The God Jehovah would rather see a baby die than receive a transfusion of whole blood, red cells, plasma, or platelets, though he's perfectly okay with transfusions of these blood products as long as they're fractionated first, even though he neglected to mention any of these life and death details in his word, the Bible. That's a good point. And that's a point that we're all arguing on. The blood, the shunning, shun your children. These things don't make sense. Number 7, it would be loving and just to murder babies, since that is what the God Jehovah, the God of love and justice, ordered done on numerous occasions, and is about to do again hundreds of millions of non-witness babies in Armageddon. And this is another thing we talked about, narcissism. When an individual, and I was at that point myself, when we would think, I sure hope Armageddon's going to come. I hope Armageddon's coming. Oh, this system is just too much. I wish the end would come. We were all, that's all we were wishing as Jehovah's Witnesses. We were wishing for the end to come. And that's all the religion is about. So you go through all of your life, and this is advice to all you younger people out there. You go through all of your life, you waste it on the Watchtower wishing for the end to come, waiting, and you do nothing with your life. You're told not to go get education, not to do anything, just to be a janitor and just wait and pioneer and go out in service and go to all the meetings and make sure you have enough to donate. And, get a job that you can run your own hours or something. That's what most of the Jehovah's Witnesses would do. We would think the perfect job would be one where we could run our own janitor business, because then we could work nights. You work until midnight, and, maybe you do a couple morning arrangements, but maybe you sleep in a bit and do afternoon arrangements. And that's the mentality that they would train a Jehovah's Witness for. That's what they would shoot for. Anyways, we're going to move on. Number 7, murdering babies. If the truth were the truth, murdering babies would be okay for God. It would be, number 8, it would be more important to protect an organization harboring pedophiles than the children in whom they victimize, if the truth were the truth. You see, this is what it looks like. When we lay the cards on the table, this is what the Jehovah's Witness truth looks like. Very well written. Number 9, although the sanctity of free will is what got the human race into all these means in the first place, the God Jehovah requires that we all surrender our free will and obey his organization, even if what they tell us seems wrong to do so. So what they're saying is go against your gut. Go against everything that you know, but trust the governing body. And now we hear the reports. More people have gotten shot working in the field ministry. This was in Panama, the canal. You know, Panama Canal. There you go. And my good wife, she has relatives that live there. She says it's a good place. It's like Canada. I don't know. It's a good place to live. A lot of Canadians go down there. And here, Jehovah's Witnesses down there in door-to-door work, and they shot him. So we're going to try to get a news on that for you guys coming up here. So they want you to do something, even if you know it's wrong. So you're out in the field ministry. You live in New York, and you're in the Bronx, and you go to the Kingdom Hall, and you're in the Bronx in New York. And the brother says, okay, here's where you're working, and it's in the worst territory. It's where all the gangs are. And you go down there, you got your kids, and but the brothers are going to not send. I know that the brothers will not send women and children into bad areas, but they're going to send pioneers. They're going to send brothers so I'm a pioneer. They're going to get us pioneers together, and they're going to get us killed, and that's what happens. And there's no insurance. My wife and kids are all left in the street, and there's some more articles coming up about this because the Watchtower is pushing the door-to-door work, and the door-to-door work is not necessary. People aren't listening at the doors. Number 10, anyone who disagreed with any of the above or any teaching of the Watchtower, present or future, would be mentally diseased servant of Satan. And that's number 10. That's where I'm at, number 10. And so I'm a mentally diseased servant of Satan. And he, it's funny, he opened a link. I'm going to open this link. He gives links on his blog here to everything. I'll see if it'll open. Maybe it won't open. I was having trouble with the internet out here. Now, the Jehovah's Witness Dilemma Part 2. This is Part 2 of the 3-part series. Please read Part 1 first if you haven't already. Part 1, we saw the Watchtower has repeatedly stated that people must examine both sides of an issue in order to arrive at the truth. We saw how people need to do this in spite of one side being labeled liars, spawn of Satan. Finally, we saw the Watchtower has confirmed that this method for finding the truth will never change. The big picture. Imagine our surprise then if we should ever walk into an assembly of Jehovah's people and hear the following statements being made by the Watchtower spokesman in a public talk. Like Satan, our critics are unruly men who cook up wicked reasoning and season their brew with poisonous lies that deceive minds. Their preference is to partake of falsehood at the table of demons. Our critics are part of the seed of serpents spoken of at Genesis 3, verse 15. If we wish to please Jehovah, we cannot be feeding at his table and at the same time nibbling at the table of demons, eating from the hands of Satan's helpers, our critics. If Satan and his demons are chefs in his evil kitchen, then our critics are his helpers. Our critics are mentally diseased, and they try to infect others with their disloyal teachings. Avoiding critics means that we will not allow them into our homes by reading their literature, watching TV programs that feature them, examining their websites, or adding our comments to their blogs. Experts from the symposium, Beware of Apostates, given at the 2013 District Convention of Jehovah's Witnesses, the word apostate has been changed to our critics for reasons explained below. So that was right from an assembly part or a Watchtower. What did it say? This was a Watchtower spokesman public talk. So that's what they say about our critics or the apostates. So here it is. It says, now wait just a minute. Is this new truth? After decades of preaching about how we need to be open to both sides of an issue, has a governing body discovered that their stance has been wrong all the time and now we are told not to examine both sides? But how could that possibly be when the governing body has told us that the truth does not change with time? It seems that the members of the governing body are the ones who have become disloyally turning their backs on their own fundamental teachings on the method for ascertaining the truth. What to do? Well, let's remain loyal to the truth and its methods. Methods we learned from the Watchtower. Let's examine this evidence. Apostates. The Watchtower talk was referring to what they call apostates. This is loaded language, so I purposely substituted the phrase our critics because that more accurately describes people whom they are referring. Specifically, critics who were once Jehovah's Witnesses. Apostates are not homogeneous. They're not a homogeneous group with one set of beliefs or worldviews such as the witnesses have. They are diverse individuals. Some of them may be unruly, but not all of them are. Some may be mentally diseased, but most are not. Some no longer believe in Christ, but some of them still do. Few retain a belief in Satan, and fewer still believe they are his helpers. So it is wrong to lump them all together and say that apostates are unruly, wicked, manipulators, deceivers, liars, antichrists, the seed of Satan, and Satan's helpers. It is not only wrong of the governing body to do this, it is a lie. More than that, it is a prejudice. So this is where we get into legal things, prejudice and discrimination. So we can't sue the Watchtower for shunning, but we can sue them for prejudice and discrimination. So here we go. It is a prejudice, impugning the character of every individual based solely on their membership in a group. It is a stereotype, just as bad and stupid as calling all Mexicans lazy or Jewish people avaricious. This guy has good language. We're going to look up a word here in a bit. This is not good. We have caught our authority figure, the governing body, in an obvious lie. Now, when a liar accuses someone else of lying, should we suddenly imagine that they're telling the truth? No. Though liars sometimes do tell the truth, we would be stupid not to examine the evidence even more carefully than usual under such circumstances. So here's the evidence. What is the evidence that the governing body supplies to prove their accusations that their critics are liars? Here's another excerpt from the same talk. So, can you guys see the screen okay? Our critics have used the media to accuse Jehovah's Witnesses of refusing to give medical treatment to their children and of deliberately condoning serious sins committed by fellow believers. Our critics falsely stated that Jehovah's Witnesses supported Hitler's regime during World War II. So this is what they said at a talk, at an assembly talk, that their critics or their apostates have used media to accuse Jehovah's Witnesses of refusing to give medical treatment to their children and of deliberately condoning serious sins by fellow believers. Yeah, okay. And that they're part of Hitler's regime in World War II. The evidence they have provided consists of 3 statements attributed to apostates. Let's examine them one at a time to see if the statements really are lies. Number 1. Jehovah's Witnesses refuse to give medical treatment to their children. In what alternate reality could this be considered to be a lie? Jehovah's Witnesses refuse blood transfusions for themselves and for their children. That is a medical treatment. There is no dispute about this. They even publish an issue of their Awake magazine featuring the children who died as a result of this policy. Interesting. I didn't know that. Score another truth for the apostates and another lie for the governing body. So there's the first one. Number 2. Jehovah's Witnesses deliberately condone serious sins committed by fellow believers. The Watchtower, and here's the debate, the debunk. The Watchtower has the policy of not informing the police of child molestation, which has been reported to the elders of their congregations unless there are 2 or more witnesses to a crime, a condition rarely if ever fulfilled. Courts of law have found them guilty on this count, and they have been ordered to pay millions of dollars to victims. This policy results in the condoning of serious sins committed by fellow believers. Score another truth for the apostates and another lie for the governing body. Number 3, Jehovah's Witnesses supported Hitler's regime during World War II. At worst, this could be described as an exaggeration. I, for one, have never stated it this way. Though again, apostates are a diverse lot and some are apt to overstate the case in some instances. You can't blame all apostates for what some might say we are individuals. The truth of the matter is this. Rutherford, then president of the Watchtower Society, sent a cloying letter to Hitler in which he basically stated that the witnesses felt the same way toward the Jews as he did, and that they too would like to see all nations on earth conquered and businesses destroyed. And here's what that letter says. Dear Chancellor, the Brooklyn headquarters of the Watchtower Society is pro-German in an exemplary way and has been so for many years. The conference of 5,000 delegates also noted, as is expressed in the declaration, that the Bible researchers of Germany are fighting for the very same ethical goal and ideals, which also the national government of the German Reich proclaimed, respecting the relationship of humans to God, namely, honesty of the created being toward its creator. The conference came to the conclusion that there are no contradictions when it comes to the relationship between Bible researchers of Germany to the national government of the German Reich. So that's what they're saying, that they're on the same level, they're on the same thought pattern. The Jehovah's Witnesses. To the contrary, referring to the purely religious and unpolitical goals and efforts of the Bible researchers, it can be said that these are in full agreement with the identical goals of the national government of the German Reich. We are looking forward to your kind approval, which we hope to receive soon, and want to assure our highest respect to you, Honorable Mr. Chancellor. Yours faithfully, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Magdeburg, Germany. Nor was this limited to a secret letter. Witnesses were very aware of this instance as shown in the Declaration of Facts they adopted and later published in the 1934 yearbook. And here's what it says. It has been the commercial Jews of the British American Empire that have built up and carried on big business as a means of exploiting and oppressing peoples of many nations. This fact particularly applies to the cities of London and New York, the stronghold of big business. This fact is so manifest in America that there is a proverb concerning the city of New York which says, "The Jews own it, the Irish Catholics rule it, and the Americans pay the bills." A carefully examination of our books and literature will disclose the fact that the very high ideals and promulgated by the present national governments are set forth in and endorsed and strongly emphasized in our publications, and shows that Jehovah God will see to it that these high ideals will be attained by all persons who love righteousness and so obey the Most High. So, from the Declaration of Principles. So they're pushing their books as their books say the same thing. And so they're trying to push their literature on Germany, Hitler. So that really sounds like they're trying to get into bed with Hitler. It's what I see going on there. So here he goes on to say, that's not the whole picture, of course, although there were cringes today at the racism and anti-ism I said that wrong. Anti-Semitism. So I'm going to reread that. Although we cringe today at the racism and anti-Semitism displayed in the above quotes, we could take a positive spin on the above and say that the Watchtower leaders were attempting to placate a maniac and use whatever half-truths they could in order to avoid persecution. A persecution that did come and which many witnesses bravely withstood. So you can go and see on the original documents. Here, I'll open it up. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me see here. There. It should be a little easier to see. Okay, so this is a letter. So all the research is in here. I'm not going to go through all this, but this is the letter to Hitler right here. Whoever on the Watchtower Help Club, whoever did this, there's a lot of research. It's an amazing amount of research here. JW Facts. So what he's doing, he went to JW Facts, so this is not his site. So he links to different people's sites. So that's JW Facts. It's another site, Rutherford's Letters. Okay, we're going to carry on. So it's not as simple as stating that the witnesses supported Hitler. That sentence doesn't do justice to the complexities of the situation, but is something that bears examination, and everyone concerned about this issue has a right to know the above facts and make up their own minds as to whether the actions were justified. That's all this particular apostate is asking, in accordance with the Watchtower method of truth-seeking. I'll be generous and score half a point on each side. So who's lying? Well, the final score in our examination, with 3 being a perfect score. Governing body has a half a point, and the apostates have 2.5 points. Sorry, governing body, you have been shown to be liars once again. Those of us who remain loyal to the truth will continue to speak the truth about you, whether you are denigrate, whether you degenerate, denigrate, degrade us, whether you degrade us as wicked helpers of Satan or not. Our motivation is not evil, it is love for our former brothers and sisters still enslaved to your lies. In part 3, the final part of this series, you'll get to interactively discover for yourself, beyond any doubt, exactly who the liar is. Part 3. So we're going to go up to part 3. Let's see if it loads. Is the truth that simple? We didn't read that one. Okay. Jehovah's Witness Dilemma Part 3. See the Watchtower crumble to the dust under the weight of its own words. This is part 3 of a 3-part article. If you haven't done so, please read part 1 and 2 first. We're going to get serious and determine once and for all who is a liar. So it turns out that our task will be pretty easy, because the easiest liars to identify are those who tell lies habitually or have a long record of writing or speaking falsehoods. You can also catch them contradicting themselves, so that you know that at least one of their statements must be false. The Watchtower has made the blanket statement that all those who come to disagree with them are liars. In part 2 of this series, we showed that the evidence they give for this statement is faulty, and in fact proves that their blanket statement itself is a lie. For instance, one piece of evidence the Watchtower gave was that the apostates accuse Jehovah's Witnesses of refusing medical care for their children. Well, since Jehovah's Witnesses do, in fact, refuse to let their children have blood transfusions, apostates are not lying in this regard. They are making a true statement. It is the Watchtower that is lying when it calls apostates liars for stating this truth about them. So now that we have fairly considered the Watchtower's evidence against us and answered their charges, it's time to turn the tables and look at the Watchtower's own record of truthfulness. This is how we follow the Watchtower's own method of truth finding that we praised in part 1 by examining both sides. Below, I have gathered together a sampling of actual statements made by the Watchtower over the years, often paraphrasing their meaning in the table while giving a reference to the exact citation. Just click the question number to view the reference, and you be the judge. So, and the Pepsi really holds its fizzle for quite a long time, which keeps the throat calm and relaxed to minimize coughing, especially while public speaking. So I recommend Pepsi to all public speakers out there. Okay, Pepsi, send me another donation. Okay, you be the judge, but don't let me influence your decision as to what the record shows. I invite you to be the judge by marketing these statements as true or false yourself. And remember, as odd as some of these beliefs may sound, all of them were held as true at one point or another by the Watchtower, as their printed publications prove. You're being asked whether it's true or false that the Watchtower held or now holds these beliefs. No, not that they held or hold these beliefs is an established fact, not under dispute. Please consult the reference if you have any doubt what you're being asked. So we'll go through it here. So keep in mind we're holding the Watchtower's standard and determining what is true and quoted in the part 1 of the series. Heck, it really is such a great quote that I'm going to go ahead and quote it again. So here's what they say in this book. Truth does not contradict itself or defy the facts. It does not go contrary to reality. It does not change because of location or time. The truth is provable by actual fact. The truth endures, persists because it is genuine, actually existing in harmony with reality. Things in which it is impossible for God to lie. Page 22. So there's their article. So in accordance with the above definition, your answers may be changed to keep you from inadvertently assenting to the two contradictory statements. So there is no such thing as rabies. False. It has never been proven that germs cause disease. False. Aluminum cookware can kill you. I don't know. False. True. Radio waves can cure just about any ailment. False, I think, yeah. You should sleep with your head pointed north in order to absorb the earth electronic waves. False. Your heart is literally the source of your emotions, your personality, and your blood. False. The fall of Jerusalem occurred in 607. False. The time of the end began in 1799. False. The time of the end began in 1914. False. The Lord's presence, Perugia, second coming dates from 1874 without the slightest room for doubt. False. The Lord's presence, Perugia, second coming dates from 1914. False. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the Bible in stone. False. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built by Satan in order to deceive the faithful. False. That's what the Watchtower has said. So if you went to, if you wanted to come back to this and go to the number, like let's say the Pyramid of Giza, I'm going to open that link, see what comes up. So here it is, the Pyramid of Giza. What did that come up with? It is reasonable to conclude that the Great Pyramid of Giza, as well as other pyramids, were built to rule under the directions of Satan the devil. So where'd this come from? Watchtower Help Club. Oh, he just referred to another point in his thing. Okay. One particular measurement of the pyramid grew from 41 inches. That's false. 1874 marked 6,000 years of humankind existence. False. 1975 marked 6,000 years of humankind. False. The people living in 1914 of an age of understanding, typically given as 10, will by no means have died off before Armageddon comes. They would be 113 years old as of this writing. False. The generation of MT25, Matthew 25:14 refers to non-believers living in the last days. False. Russell was the faithful and wise servant of Matthew 25 and 45. False. Because the governing body is them today, so Russell isn't. You can't pass that stuff on. He isn't. The Watchtower never claimed that Russell was the faithful, wise servant. Oh, so then the Watchtower changed its mind. False. All of the anointed are the faithful and discreet slave class. That's false, because that's what they believed at one time. Only the governing body are the faithful, discreet slave class. False. That's what they believe now. God lives on Star Elikon. I didn't know that. We'll have to look at that link. The Jehovah's Witnesses believed that at one time. Millions of people living in 1921, now over 100 years old, using the Watchtower's age of understanding, will never die. False. It was certainly that the ancient world worthiness would be resurrected on the year 1925 with more evidence than Noah had for the coming flood and more certainty than the 1914 date. False. That's how they put it, the Watchtower, back then. It was only selfish people who read into a probability about 1925 that it was a certainty. So that's what the Watchtower then later said. False. The Bible foretold electric cars and the railroad, giving a particular description of the latter. False. The other sheep are heavenly class. False. The other sheep are earthly class. False. The door to the heavenly calling closed in 1935. False. See, these are all things the Watchtower says. The door is still open and no one can assign a date to its closing. They changed it. False. Although there is no precedent in the Bible, inanimate objects such as Smurf dolls or action figure toys can become demonized. False. Vaccinations are against God's everlasting covenant, have never saved a life, and do not prevent smallpox. False. That's what they said back then. Vaccinations are not against God's law and were instrumental in eradicating smallpox from the face of the earth. And then they later said that. They changed their mind. False. Organ transplants are cannibalism and against God's everlasting covenant. They changed their minds on that. Organ transplants are not against God's law. So how many people died back then because they didn't take organ transplants? And then the Watchtower changes their mind and said, well, it's not against God. It's okay now. Did they write letters to all the families and say that I'm sorry? Number 37, oral sex between a husband and wife is against God. False. There is no law against oral sex between a husband and wife. In 38, they must have said that. A woman who fails to scream while being raped is guilty of fornication. A woman who fails to scream while being raped is not guilty of fornication. So you see how they change their role as they move on. The Watchtower changes. The inhabitants of Sodom will be resurrected. The inhabitants of Sodom will not be resurrected. So they changed their mind there. The test of the membership of the New World will not be based on the membership in an earthly organization. It is solely in association with New Worldly society that we possibly survive into the New World. So you see the contradiction there. They change their minds. The Watchtower has never changed its teachings. That's a laugh. Jehovah's Witnesses have abolished hatred within their organization. False. Look what they've done to us. You must loathe, hate, and despise apostates. Exactly. Apostates often make true points. Some of them sincerely believed in the Bible and God. All people who come to disagree with the Watchtower apostates are antichrist, liars, mentally diseased, helpers of Satan, and hatred of God. That's what the Watchtower calls us. So they lied there. The Watchtower has proven itself dependable and has never uttered a falsehood. They stand out in the world as truth tellers. False. There, we caught the Watchtower on 50 falsehoods. So who's telling the truth? Okay, we're going to move on here. This article, we're going to move out of it. And we're going to move on to, is the truth that simple? Now, the implied syllogism. Who knows what syllogism is? I'm going to go online here. And we're going to look at everyone online here. Okay, Talkum Woman, hello. Thank you for being online tonight. David, Michael, thank you. Clyde Bell. What do we have? Any good questions? Gracie Pimo, hello. Elizabeth, nice to join us. Thanks for joining us. And Mary777, thank you for joining the chat. Hello, Clyde. Gracio. So now, anybody have an answer to that one? That last one. Last question. Remember what it was? Here, I'll go back to the display. Syllogism. I didn't know what that was, so I looked it up. Here's what it is. Oh, you can't really see it on that screen. It's an instance of a form of reasoning in which a conclusion is drawn from two given or assumed propositions, each of which shares a term and a conclusion, and shares a common or middle term not present in the conclusion. For instance, all dogs are animals. All animals have 4 legs. Therefore, all dogs have 4 legs. Deductive reasoning as distinct from induction. So that's what that word means. So there is an implied syllogism in Vania's statement, which goes like this. So he gave a kind of an illustration here. How not to think. So number 1, truth is simple and clear with no divisions. Number 2, evolution is difficult for her to understand, and people she has met have given her a different definition of it. So this is like a synopsis of a discussion that took place. So number 3, therefore evolution must not be true, and the account of creation in Genesis must therefore be true. So let's take this one step at a time and determine if this is a valid argument and if it's true. Number 1, is truth always simple and clear with no divisions? No. Unfortunately, it's not. For more than this, I would add that it is not always intuitive either. Let's look at some examples. The notion that the sun orbits the earth is simple, clear, and intuitive. It was what nearly everyone regarded as obvious common sense for the vast majority of human history. It was also completely wrong when Copernicus suggested the opposite theory, that the earth orbited the sun, his work was condemned as both unscriptural and unscientific by the religious leaders of his day. Newton's laws of physics are also, for the most part, simpler and more intuitive than Einstein's theory of relativity. Yet it is the latter that more accurately explains how the universe operates, especially at a grander scale than our day-to-day lives usually entail. Quantum physics is not simple at all. In fact, it's counterintuitive, yet it is the best explanation of the facts and the subatomic level. So far, we've seen that scientific truth is not always clear, simple, or intuitive. Now let's look at what Jehovah's Witnesses consider to be the truth. How simple and clear is it? Let's take the fundamental Watchtower beliefs that their governing body was judged to be the faithful and discreet slave of Jesus' parable in the year of 1919, after Jesus had spent some time looking over all the candidates. This is a critically important belief, because without it, there would be no compelling reason for witnesses to hang on each word of the governing body pronounces, as hang they surely do, and judge for yourself whether this truth of theirs qualifies as simple and clear. Okay, first of all you have to establish is the year 1914 by taking the 7 times of Daniel 2 and multiplying 360 according to a totally unrelated biblical formula a day for a year, and pretending that a year consists of 360 days instead of 365 days. That gives you 2520 years, 2,520 years for the Gentile times, even though in the account in Daniel, King Nebuchadnezzar, representing the Gentile powers of the time, was off his throne for those 7 times, lost to madness and grazing like a cow in the field. We'll still pretend that the 7 times represents the time when the Gentile kingdoms will rule the earth before spiritual Israel takes over. So starting in 1940, now in case any of you guys out there are wondering, and if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, you know that this is the most convoluted prophecy there was in that Red Live Forever Paradise book. I couldn't get it. The 7 times. You could read through it, but you had to take it on faith, a lot of this crap. So we'll read through it because it's good for us. It's good for us to unwind this. And that's what the writer is helping us to do here. So starting in 1914, you have to go back in time, 20 years, which brings you to 607. So now in order for all of this to work out, you have to pretend that 607 was the year that Jerusalem was destroyed, even though it is known to have occurred in 587 BCE. Then we have to pretend that we arrive at 1914 by counting 7 times from the destruction of Jerusalem in 607, instead of admitting that we went the other way around. And isn't that the truth? Now, to 1914, we then add the length of Jesus' ministry, 3.5 years, arbitrarily not taking a day for a year in this case, because otherwise it wouldn't work out the way we intended. That brings us to 1918. But the leaders of the Watchtower were imprisoned during that year, so we add 3.5 days of Revelation 11 and 9. Not only this time, we pretend that the day is 3 months instead of a year, so that equals 9.5 months, which brings us to the year 1919 when the Watchtower leaders were released from prison. That's thus proven that they were judged to be the faithful and discreet slave by none other than Jesus himself, who I'm sure would be as surprised as the rest of us to see his parable turned into a convoluted prophecy about some ex-cons. So here's the ex-con, Rutherford. He was thrown into prison for sedition and spreading his lying, his beliefs upon the nations and printing millions of books. But he was put into jail. The whole governing body was put in there. And there's lots of articles on that. So number 2, is evolution difficult to understand? Does it have divisions? As being difficult to understand, this is something each individual will have to answer, but I would say that if you can understand the Watchtower's dogma, such as typical reasoning, then you should have no trouble understanding the relatively simple notion of variation plus natural selection over time, which evolution consists of. So I don't want to get into all this. Well, it's right there. He just talks about it simply. We'll finish it up. However, the complexity of the theory really has no bearing on its truthfulness. Calculus, chemistry, and molecular biology are all difficult for most people to comprehend, but that doesn't make them false. In science, a theory is considered tentatively true when it is the best explanation of the evidence without regards to the complexity. In contrast, the Watchtower seems to manipulate or ignore the evidence in order to comport with its truth, as shown in the 1919 example above. The theory of evolution can't be blamed for the misinformed or inarticulate individuals who may offer their faulty notions about what it means. The witnesses themselves are guilty of spreading such faulty notions by attempting to muddy the waters with their unique definition of adaptation, presented as some vague sort of alternative to evolution. Despite what the Watchtower would have us believing amongst reputable scientists, there is really no disagreeing on the basic mechanisms of evolution. By contrast, religion, and especially Bible-based religion, is highly divisive. As an example, just ask yourself who else besides the witnesses amongst legions of Bible believers think the year 1919 has any significance? No one. No one believes it does. Is this truth really evident to everyone? No. Number 3, evolution false and Genesis true. This conclusion is unsupported by the argument, since at least one of its premises is false. Worse than that, the conclusion contains a logical fallacy of false dilemma. If evolution were false, it would not follow that the generation account was true. Okay, so that covers off on the 3-part article of Is the Truth Simple? And well, that's just another one. So the truth isn't simple in so many levels. You know, when we think of finding the truth, it's that's why a lot of people say you have to find your own truth, because the truth is not that simple. You can't just read it in a book. Although I was reading this book and it seems pretty true. It's a fictional book I wrote. I thought if I didn't have anything to say today, I would read some of this book, because my contract is up with Amazon. When you put a book on Amazon, you can't republish with anybody else for 3 months. So now I could put this on. If any of you guys want, I could start putting this online into my podcast. That's what I was thinking of doing with this book. So let us know, and we could certainly do that. Now I'm going to go back to the live and see if anybody made any comments that I should be aware of. Yeah. So, good. Okay, so I have a video I was going to play for you guys. Thought you might like it. Where is it? It's way down here. Okay, now this, I'll put the display on. We're on the Watchtower Help Administration site, and they only have 6 videos. They're trying to get their subscription level up, so if you haven't subscribed to them yet, please subscribe. Ex-Jehovah's Witness, served in Bethel, and now builds these really quality videos. So we're going to take a look at a video on how the overlapping generation was revealed. So I'm going to put you right on display here. And I'm going to shut off my mic and I got to turn my desktop audio on. Yeah.
Welcome, brothers and sisters, to another episode of XJW Broadcasting. Today, we have a real treat for you. The governing body, after reviewing archived footage from security cameras in the old Bethel conference room, have uncovered video of the momentous revealing of the truth about the generation Jesus spoke of in Matthew 24:34. You'll recall that Jesus had just described the Great Tribulation, which immediately precedes Armageddon, and the ushering in of Paradise Earth. Let's turn to our Bibles and read, "Truly, I say to you, that this generation will by no means pass away until all these things happen." Yes, brothers, the meaning of the word generation in that passage is critical. We spent many decades with what turned out to be a very dim understanding of that word. But in the year 2010, the truth was revealed to us. And the concept of the overlapping generation drove home the urgency of our message once again. The original footage is too degraded to show, so members of the governing body are going to recreate this historic occasion for you. In our reenactment, the parts of our late brothers Yarax and Pierce will be played by brothers Sanderson and Cook.
Brothers, we have a problem.
What? Did a Bethel brother take your parking spot again? We should make them all ride bicycles.
No, it's not that. I saw his car out there.
Oh, then I'll bet his Rolex stopped again.
Oh, that's no problem for Splain. He used that to his advantage in his talks. You see, brothers and sisters, we told you time was running out. Excuse me, brothers. No, seriously, brothers. Our numbers are dropping. And it's all because of that damned generation teaching. The 1914 generation is long dead. That ugly fact keeps staring us right in the face.
Oh, we've fixed that twice already. Once in 95 when we made generation refer to the wicked ones.
Yeah, and then again 2 years ago when we made generation refer to the righteous ones. All anointed for the past 2,000 years.
Talk about going from one extreme to the other. But the diehards still believe us.
All well and good. But you're forgetting something important. We've taken the teeth out of the doctrine. When we believed the heavenly calling ended in 35, we were okay. No more anointed after that year. Then the generation would be 90 years old and counting by now. That's got some bite. Another 10 to 20 years and they'd be gone. That gave Armageddon some urgency.
But we abandoned that doctrine. Now we say that no one knows when the door to the heavenly calling will close.
We had to. All these silly newbies claiming to be anointed and partaking of the emblems each year. But don't you see? As long as there are new anointed ones, Armageddon keeps getting pushed further and further into the future and becomes less of a concern. Where's the urgency in our message? It's not motivating the sheep to put in their hours or empty their pockets into our coffers anymore. It's not enough.
Oh, I get it. Brother Splain is saying that we need another generation of definition. Wait a second. I think I mean that the other way around.
I see Brother Let's as quick as greased lightning as usual.
But what else could we possibly cook up? Haven't we already exhausted all possibilities?
We need to put our heads together, brothers.
Yeah, like that'll f***ing help. I'll sleep on it.
What? Are you guys still at it? I'm sorry, but I've got to clean up in here. I'm already doing overtime, and this job is overlapping with my waitress job.
Overlapping.
What happened to Sister Subservient? She always cleans up after us.
She told me she was sick of being around you old farts, what with you hitting on her all the time, when you weren't denigrating her for her small female brain, so she hired me to take her place.
Excuse me, but we're discussing something very important here.
And very confidential.
Yeah, my service told me you guys are the head of all the Jehovah's, but my friend Gladys, her sister works with a Jehovah Witness, and she told her that you spread the truth throughout the world.
That's right.
So ain't nothing confidential about that. You want to get the word out, right? So, no need for closed doors. Whatever you got to say, you can say it in front of Hazel.
Hazel. What a beautiful name. Just like its owner.
Forget it, Pops. You're old enough to be my grandfather.
No. When you were born, I was a young man.
Oh, okay, so you're only old enough to be my father then.
I'm one of your generation. I'm very hip.
I'll bet you are.
Well, if I were your father, I would have generated you, right?
Right, sure. Whatever, old man.
Well then, my generation of you was your generation. So it's one and the same generation.
Sort of sounds like an old Abbott and Costello routine, doesn't it?
The generation. Overlapping. Generation. Hold the phone. What the did he just say? Oh, he's talking drunken nonsense like usual. It'll be the DTs next.
Oh, it already smelled like bullshit in here, and now he's gone and puked on the floor. You guys make more of a mess than anyone should have to clean up. I am out of here.
But we can clean up our doctrinal mess. Brother Morris literally stumbled upon the solution. Overlapping generations.
It's the 1914 generation, plus any anointed ones born while that generation was still alive. Just like Loesch and Hazel, one generation is the spiritual father of the next. So it's all one generation.
Isn't it marvelous to witness Jehovah's hand guiding his faithful slave to discover such an important truth? This revelation gave us an entire new generation to work with, even after the 1914 generation had all died. But it still set an urgent limit, no matter how many deluded newbies proclaim themselves to be anointed in the future. Now, Brothers Splain and Morris are going to further clarify our understanding of the generation doctrine.
Now we know some of you dear brothers and sisters have trouble understanding the overlapping generation doctrine. So consider this. Let's say the sand in this hourglass represents the anointed who witnessed the events of 1914. Jesus said this generation would by no means pass away before Armageddon arrived. We'll call this hourglass A. But as long as there was at least one grain of sand left up here that hadn't fallen asleep in death, then all of the sand in this hourglass would be of the same generation. We'll call this second one hourglass B. So when Jesus said this generation, he evidently meant this generation. Thank you, Brother Morris. You bring up a good point. This third hourglass would not be part of the generation, because all the sand had already run out of the hourglass A. But C is the same generation as B, because it was turned over while there was still sand in B. If it works between A and B, it has to work between B and C. Same logic. Okay, so C would be the same generation as B, but not of A. I learned this in school way back. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Thanks for pointing that out, Brother Morris. That's an example of trusting in secular education rather than trusting the faithful slave, even if what we say makes no sense to you. Yeah, if the doctrine makes sense to you, then you're drunker than I am. But if you pretend to believe it, then you're a true Jehovah's Witness.
Thank you, Brothers Splain and Morris, for helping us to understand this important doctrine. And thanks to the entire governing body for their reenactment of that historic occasion. And especially to you, brothers and sisters, for joining us and for continuing to swallow whatever shit we come up with, no matter how ridiculous. This is what keeps our organization going. And just as important, keep putting in long hours spreading our words and dig voluntarily but deeply into your pockets to support us financially, so we can pay off our lawsuits while continuing to serve you with such wholesome spiritual food. Always keeping in mind that Armageddon is still just around the corner.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's a little bit like the Muppet Show. That's what I thought. It was very well done. We think of the big thumbs up we give to, here, we'll pull them up here. A big thumbs up to the Watchtower Help Club. And here they are. The Watchtower Help Admin, thank you for all your thousands of hours of hard work, whoever you are out there. When I look at videos like this, it takes a seriousness everything, and it just puts it into like the Muppet Show, like Sesame Street version. And so we covered the in-depth, the indoctrination on this show today. We went through with the Watchtower Help Club. They nicely laid it out, and then put together a video to really explain how ridiculous this overlapping generation is, and it's going to be, and how they've just keep turning over the hourglass. Very well done. Very well done. So I want to go over to the comments, and that wraps up our show today. So I want to say thank you to everyone, and thank you for attending today. And if you're out there and you haven't yet got into the chat, we're trying our best to be on every Saturday at this time. So put us on your schedule, subscribe to us, and then I try to get my notifications out a couple hours before the show, and then you won't miss it. So our life is going to turn upside down here in a bit, but as we move, but we're going to keep the show going. It might be not in the studio here, and it might be live, it might be on the road, and it might be exciting. So join us as we have hundreds of topics to talk about, and we have these time slots here available. And the time slots are really nice for you folks and for all of those that have come out of the Jehovah's Witness religion, because it's a place to meet people. It's a place to get on. You can watch the old guys like me talk, or you can just get into the chats on the line. It doesn't matter. But this is a place that you can go and meet some people, find out stories, and if you're needing help, you can get that right on the chat line here. But also below the descriptions in all of our videos is a helpline that you can get on the internet. It's free, of course, and there's help all over the world. There's lots of groups set up to help people. I also want to talk about what's coming up is Be Free 2023. I'm gonna pull it up here. Be Free 2023, and that's sneaking up on us. So we're mentioning that at all of our lives. I'll pull that display up. So here it is, Be Free 2023. You can learn all about them. You can learn what's going on. This is put together by ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's a protest, October 31st. And it's to bring awareness to the governments of the mission, to expose and put an end to the harmful practices of shunning, and to advance equality, to end the concealment of child sex abuse. These are a few things. So this is raising an awareness about this vital protest. The U.S. is a big place. Each state is like a country. So by going to Parliament, hopefully we can address this nationwide. And we're doing the same in Canada. It's also in the description below. It's we do it different here. We have to do an online petition. We have to have 500 to 1,000 signatures, and then we can bring that to a parliament member, and then the parliament represents us in our parliament here. Norway was successful in bringing an end to treating these groups as charities that shun. And that's why Jehovah's Witnesses are concerned with what we're doing. We're bringing an awareness to the shunning. And it's important that we pull together and that we work together to do this. For a lot of us, we have family and friends in there that we'd like to talk to. And it'd be nice to do that soon. So I think the harder we work, the more pressure this is putting on the Watchtower, and the Watchtower is going to relinquish some of its control slowly, and it's already starting, and we see that happening. So how do we know that? Well, they pulled out the shunning videos out of the district assembly this summer. Why? Because of Norway? Because of all the publicity? We think so. So let's keep it up. Keep up the good work, everyone. And today I'm going to give you a outro. Here it is. Here we go. So until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.
We're all done the show. So that went quick. That was easy, eh?
I forgot to turn my desktop mic on. Here we go.
We're all done the show. So that went quick. That was easy, eh? So now let's go through that little tour. What I do after this is I go for a walk. Let it go down. We all go for a walk. So follow me. We're joining. There's my jack here. And I better set up over here. Hello, how did the show go? We're on right to you. How did the show go? Went good. So, now I only let my mic on once, right?
Right.
So, I'm just getting ready to go out. We're gonna go see how dark it is in here. But anyway, we're gonna go see Adam, so join me.